Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cricket Podcast, where we have a special episode for you today. A preview show. I don't know if we've done one of those before, Jack, or at least a preview right before the game. At just under an hour and a half to go before the big day, and here we are. We will be taking a look forward to the action that we will hopefully be excited by between CSK and KKR. Lots of Ks. Easy for you to say. Jack is here. How are you?
Oh, yeah, I'm all right. My internet's still pretty poor. I have to throw some more coal on that before we get on the live stream after the game.
And also here, joined by Dan Weston. Dan, good to have you with us, with a furry friend by the looks of things as well.
No, I've actually got two furry friends next to me. I've got one that you can just see here, and I've also got a black lab, but because he's on a black sofa, you can't see him.
Camo lab.
yeah, good to be back. Good to be back.
Wonderful, good to have you with us. So, let's get into it, shall we? Because some of us have got meetings to get to in 20 minutes. So let's get through it. So as I said, just under an hour and a half's time, we will be treated to the IPL final, and what a spectacle we hope it will be. It's the battle of the specialist captains, the specialist captain and the specialist finisher turned specialist captain returned specialist finisher in MS Dhoni. Yeah. Bring on the yellows, and they're sort of approaching the final in two kind of contrasting ways. We've got another fan there for CSK in the background. Contrast coming to the final, like they've sort of gone on slightly different journeys over the last week. CSK against Delhi Capitals looked out of it until the last few overs, when slightly helped by some questionable decisions from Rishabh Pant, scored 13 off the last over and 50 odd off the last four, was it, to make their way to the final at Delhi Capital's expense. And then Delhi's second bite at the cherry against KKR. They came up against a side who, over the last few games, have decided to get really far ahead and then try really hard to colossally blow it. But on Wednesday, they were so far ahead, even despite trying their absolute hardest, they were unable to not get over the line, despite an excellent effort of 7 for 6 off 23 balls. just the mind boggles. So where do you want to start, Jack, with looking ahead to today's game? Dan's teleported.
Well, I think I think that the place to start is where the big narrative is, right? It's Eoin Morgan v MS Dhoni, the two specialist captains in this tournament. Neither of them could bat at all, really, until Dhoni plundered Tom Curran. But anyone can plunder Tom Curran. So was it that much of an achievement? We don't know. It's interesting, I think, that two such big personalities who haven't contributed that much, really, with the Willow, have led their sides to this final. And I think it sets up quite an interesting one-on-one battle, doesn't it, Dan? For an hour's time, an hour and 20 minutes time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, specialist captain turn finisher, turn specialist captain, turn finisher, or whatever you want to call these two people. That's the narrative. But there's also a second narrative as well. It's the English media's narrative is that KKR, if KKR win this final, the English media are going to be horrendous. This is Eoin Morgan's trophy. No matter he averages about 5 in the tournament.
They're going to rename the whole tournament next year. It's going to be the Eoin Morgan Premier League.
Honestly, and for this low match, you will be heartened to know that I am the second biggest CSK fan in the world behind your good side. Because
wonderful.
I cannot cope with this. I mean, this is an English media who basically, it's almost like there's an amnesty about Eoin Morgan's form that they're not allowed to talk about it. It is like an embargo, I should say, probably is a better word than an amnesty. It is like you're banned from talking about it. And if KKR win this trophy, they're going to be unbelievable about this. This is the hype.
It's going to be intolerable.
It will be worse than Liverpool win the Premier League in football. it will be intolerable. And so therefore, yes, I'm a massive CSK fan today.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, that Morgan v Dhoni has become the narrative. Well, it's not interesting; it's the very obvious narrative. A question for both of you, I reckon. Of the two, who is actually the better captain? Max, I'm guessing you're going to say Dhoni because you're a huge CSK fan. But
yeah, spot on. But no, I think to be honest, you know, there's a few different ways you can look at these sorts of things. It's quite difficult to put a number on how good a captain is. This is a sort of tongue-in-cheek discussion we had with Dan Norcross the other day about having a metric to determine the impact of a captain on a game. But it sort of, it gets at a slightly more serious point of like, actually, how do you look at, all things equal, how do you determine who is the best captain and what's the biggest impact they have on their side without, just sort of kind of fluffy, sort of airy-fairy, he did this good thing at this time. And I think the only thing you can look at really is like Dhoni's record as captain of India and all the World Cups he's won. And Eoin Morgan won a World... What? Dhoni?
Yeah, he won 2 World Cups.
Yeah. But Morgan's only won 1, so there you go.
That's what
it's
you
2-1.
Yeah. Dhoni's also been to 10 IPL finals. This will be his 10th.
Morgan's only been an IPL captain for 1.5 seasons. So
how many? Yeah, but he hasn't made any finals, has he?
Yes, he has. He's made one final out of 1.5 seasons.
Okay, yeah, but that's still
it's
that
ratio.
It's still
the
not
same.
as good as...
It's basically the same ratio. 66% ish.
Critical question we have to ask ourselves is: would MS Dhoni have come higher in the 100 with London Spirit?
Probably.
Yeah, I think so.
I actually did. After the conversation with Norcross, I looked at all the ball by ball data for the IPL, which you can find on our Patreon, patreon.com/the cricket pod. 410 rupees, £4, $5, 7 Aussie dollars, depending on your currency. And I tried to strip away all the noise. So I got rid of home bias. I got rid of all this, that, and the other. And I looked at bowlers who have played for Dhoni and played for other captains. And by about 1.3 runs over 120 deliveries, so over an IPL innings, Dhoni gets bowlers to outperform. So it's a thin margin, but it is a margin. If you had a 1.3 run head start in every game, it's probably bigger than you would expect it to be in terms of the impact that will have on the results that you achieve.
I reckon that's probably the highest that you'd find if you did this for various captains. That's probably still going to be the highest you'd find because, like I said, so many times before, I know you spoke about with Dan, which I listened to as well the other day, that 90% of captains are in that kind of, firmly believe in that kind of mid-range thing. When you look at the fact that the best fielders are going to save you about 1 run an innings in T20 on average, or a touch more perhaps, that's actually really good for Dhoni. That is actually really good. And I think he's quite considerably a better captain than Morgan. And I've got another theory about this, Jack. I'm not sure your IPL database, as fantastic as it is, will be able to work this one out.
Okay, well, let's see.
I have a theory, and it's a theory I'm reluctant to discuss because I know we've both had our run-ins with this guy in the past. But if you look at Eoin Morgan's record as captain, when Nathan Lemon has been his analyst, it's quite a bit different to when Nathan Lemon is not his analyst.
Is it positive?
As in, when with England and KKR, it's a lot better than Middlesex and London Spirit.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah.
I mean, I suppose the slight issue with that is that Middlesex and London Spirit are pretty terrible.
Well, Middlesex have got money though. That's the London Spirit are in a comp which, as the IPL is set up to be an even.
He had to. Didn't he have to deal with Shane Warne picking the players though?
I mean, that's
I don't think
that's not his
Stephen
fault.
Hawking
That's not on him.
would be able to get out of that one. Interestingly, on that Dhoni point, just a final thing, then we'll move on to who will be playing for KKR, which I think is the other big thing we need to talk about here. Dhoni, when he's captaining a team that are defending a score, it's about 4.8 runs better. The bowlers perform over 120 balls than when they're not being captained by Dhoni. So it's a much more exaggerated impact that he has when his team are fielding second versus the league average, which I thought was quite interesting.
Was it the same set of bowlers you looked at? I mean, we shouldn't be getting into obviously the nuances of what data analysis you did. But,
yeah. It's the same set of bowlers, and again, all away from home to remove the Chepauk bias, basically, because otherwise it would be. But you can read the article on our Substack if you want to do that.
Sounds like you've thought about it very well, Jack.
Yes, it's interesting. So who isn't playing for KKR, or who is playing? Andre Russell, that's the question, Max. What's happening here?
Your guess is as good as mine, as always with IPL news.
Yes, Andre Russell. Obviously, he's been sat out with a hamstring injury for the last few games. And you know what? Obviously, it makes a difference not having Andre Russell, but Shakib coming in and bowling quite well on the pitches they played on, I don't think has necessarily been the biggest.
No.
It hasn't been as much of a disadvantage than you would expect.
What game was it? Just before, when it ended up actually with KKR being in a potential shootout for that fourth place, they lost the game, didn't they? Because they didn't pick Shakib when they really should have done. And so, I mean, he's proven his worth there. So he's come in and done a good job. But my concern from that front is, the venues, isn't it? Will Dubai be as good for having three spinners as Sharjah has been?
And your point of view on this, say Andre Russell is fit but cannot bowl, how do they fit him into the team, and should they fit him into the team?
Okay, so if you're looking at it purely on batting ability, Andre Russell as purely as a batter you wouldn't even think twice about putting him in for Eoin Morgan. But
that's not going to happen.
I would say there's much chance of that happening as me or you playing for KKR. So unfortunately, it's.
Can Andre Russell keep wicket?
No, I don't think so. I think maybe we could be a bit just as good a keeper, maybe. But yeah, I've got a feeling they're going to leave out Shakib for him, and that might be a mistake. I don't know.
It could be. If Andre Russell does play, it has to be Shakib that sort of comes out the side, doesn't it? Because Lockie Ferguson's filling the role as the fast bowler. Morgan is undroppable. Narayan they're definitely not going to get rid of. Who's the other one? Oh no, that is it. That's three, isn't it? I was trying to think of a fourth one. Yeah. So those three aren't going to come out the side. So it will be Shakib. Andre Russell, if Andre Russell plays and bowls, I don't think that's great either. His bowling this year has been average.
Pretty crap.
Yeah. At best, if you're going to be generous to it. He did bowl a couple of awesome deliveries. He yorked De Villiers, didn't he, against RCB? But the actual output is subpar, I'd say.
It's a problem with I just don't think you can balance the side though playing Dre Ross as a specialist batsman instead of Shakib. Because then you need does Venki need to bowl 4 overs?
Yeah, basically.
That's not how you win the final of an IPL.
Yeah, so that's a really tricky one. I'll be interested to see which way they go. I think it could have a big impact.
Ben Cutting.
Can we talk quickly about routes to the final? And this will be our prediction segment as well. So, from my point of view, I think CSK have got a lot more ways to win this game than KKR. I think they're probably a better power play bowling unit. I think they'll be competitive at the death with the ball. I think their batting, overall, it is a lot better. Right at the top of the order, you've got Gaikwad, who's the best opening batter in this tournament. Well, not in this tournament, in this contest. They've got pretty good production from Rayudu through the tournament. Moeen Ali's had a bit of a slumber, shall we say, in the second half of the.
Unfortunately, Robin Uthappa stepped in and.
He's good, yeah. Robbie rolled back the years, yeah. And then down the order, you've got Jadeja and Dhoni, if he plays like he did the other day, is good. I feel like that's what they've got a really nicely balanced batting lineup there. KKR, on the other hand, they really need Shakib, or well, let's not say, Shakib if he plays, Narayan and Chakravarthy to do some heavy lifting here, then it's another way they can win. Besides the spin trio or spin duo performing exceptionally here.
I've got to say, it's not just because I want them to win, but it's Savage CSK for me. They've got the players and they've got the nous, they've got the experience, and this may be we laugh about them being dad's army, but these one-off matches is probably where they get the benefit of all those years of experience, all those finals. I think they're a better team than KKR, and I think they've got more experience. And I think they're going to do it.
Max, your point of view?
Yeah, I sadly, I agree with you both in terms of who I think is most likely to win, and I think where it comes down to for me is that obviously KKR's spinners, being economical as they are key for them being staying in the game, but also from a batting point of view, where they need to score their runs it's the top four, isn't it? Like Venkaya has been a revelation in this half of the IPL, and Tripathi and Nitish Rana have been good all year, and their top four is kind of key to them scoring runs, because obviously Eoin Morgan isn't finishing anything anytime soon. But that in terms of the batting, that's where CSK, against CSK, they maybe can match them if they play well. If that top four play well, they maybe match CSK. Because Gaikwad and Faf have scored like the bulk of CSK's runs at the top, and if your openers are doing that, then you're in a fairly good spot, aren't you? And you've got better finishers than KKR. And I think the issue there is that just if you sort of compare the different compartments of each team, CSK are better in almost all of them. So it feels like CSK should win, but you never know.
Yeah. It's a one-off game. I do think Chakaravarthy is something special. He's been so good in the last 7 matches. So
how do you score runs off him?
If you're going to put eggs in one basket, the Chakravarthy basket is
a big one.
That's where I'm putting my money. If he was stocks and shares at the moment, he's a banker.
Good basket for the eggs in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Over on Patreon, we had a question in from VJ, and if you are a patron, patreon.com/thecricketpod, we'll always answer your questions. He says, my question is still the same as I asked in the IPL preview. Does failure in the IPL have any impact on Morgan leading England? He goes on a little bit after that, but just a question there. He's got no runs, Morgan, but he's got his team to the final. There's no question that he won't be England's captain at this World Cup, is there, Max?
No, not even the sort of utterance of the start of that question. It's just it's England's setup. That is it, and they're not going to change it.
Yep. Dan, you don't think any differently there, do you?
Well, I look at this IPL as a penalty shootout for Eoin Morgan in terms of he's the goalkeeper. So you look at a goalkeeper in a penalty shootout, right? And you're not expected to save anything. And if you save something, you're a hero. But if you let 5 goals in, it doesn't really matter.
Unless you're David De Gea against Villarreal, in which case.
Well, maybe. but generally speaking, it's like all win, no lose scenario as a goalkeeper. Shootout. And for the English media, this IPL is a all win, no lose for Eoin Morgan. He wins this tournament. He's the hero. It's Morgan's trophy, like I said earlier. It's all down to Morgan. It's all everything that he's done. He scored no runs, but it doesn't matter because he's a genius, and therefore he's going to lead England to glory in the World Cup, and it's a foregone conclusion. But if they were to have lost like most of their matches, like London Spirit did in 100, they won't say a word. It doesn't matter. This is like it didn't happen. It's completely irrelevant. So it's it's like a
free hit.
Free hit.
Exactly that. Yeah.
What will you do, Dan, if he does do the double?
If it was a double, I don't know, go and live in a cave somewhere.
On Twitter, we've got a question in from RR. Is this game going to be decided by the toss and the team that fields first? And then we've talked about CSK's batters versus KKR's spinners. So I don't think we need to talk about that. But do you think the toss is going to be a huge factor here, either of you?
Yeah, it generally matters in a game of T20, doesn't it? But probably less so than Sharjah. So I don't think it's going to be like.
Yes.
I don't think it's going to be the ultimate decisive factor. It might give a team maybe a 5-10% advantage, but I don't think you're going to be in a situation where you're like, okay, you like 3 times out of 4 you win now because you won the toss.
But the problem is with these the toss stuff and batting first. Obviously, we know that in UAE there's often a chasing bias at a lot of events. But I think a lot of it, the teams who bat first just don't really know what a good score is, or they haven't done enough research, due diligence to understand what a good score is. And it's all about looking at what a realistic target is batting first, which I think a lot of teams struggle with.
Yeah. Final one then from Twitter, Jordan Henderson, and I'm pretty sure it is that Jordan Henderson, says, how big of an advantage will CSK have given they played their last 3 games at Dubai, while KKR played their last 3 at Sharjah? I'd think that probably will make a difference. You know, the tactic that has been working for KKR at Sharjah was less likely to work at Dubai, which has been a better cricket pitch, I think, overall. In the last 4 or 5 weeks. So I think it's another one of those factors that in my mind make this like a 60-40 game for CSK, sorry.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Anyway, it's 2:00. Max, you've got to get back to work.
Yeah,
we will be back as soon as play finishes. So if you're watching us for the first time, or you want some analysis later on, hit subscribe, hit like to this video, leave us a